to another episode of the Cozy Cottage Crochet Podcast. My name is Hannah and I am coming to you as always from my home in St. Petersburg, Florida. Hello! First of all, I'm so sorry I didn't get an episode up last week. I missed you all and I was really excited to put up a Christmas episode before I came down with basically the plague. I don't think I've been that sick in years, which I'll talk more about that later, but basically I couldn't move. And by last Saturday I was feeling a little bit better, but there's no way that I could have gotten through an hour of talking without coughing up a lung. So I still have a cough, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm still like a little pale. And I'm not 100%, but I'm like 85, 90% now, so I think that it's getting better. But if this episode, if you see me cut a lot, it's because I went off screen to cough. Nobody wants to see that, right? I don't think so. Before we jump in, I just want to say a huge hello to any new viewers. If you are stopping by for the first time, hi, I'm so happy you're here. You decided to spend a little bit of your crafty time with me. And if you are a returning viewer, I hope you had the most wonderful Christmas if you celebrate, which most people celebrate Christmas. I was reading an article that said like 96% of Americans celebrate Christmas in one form or another. So, I mean, I guess if you're somewhere else, maybe you don't celebrate it, but I think saying Merry Christmas covers pretty much everyone. If you were doing something else though, by all means, happy holidays. It's almost the new year, so happy new year. It'll be New Year's Eve tomorrow because I'm recording this on Saturday morning. And Christmas actually isn't even over in my house because we went to South Carolina to be with my in-laws for Christmas, and we have come back since. But my parents live about an hour from here, and they're coming over later today to have their Christmas with us. So I've still got to cook a Christmas dinner. It's gonna be fabulous. So I have lots of things to show you because it's been 3 weeks, although not as much as I would have thought on account of me dying. So the first week of this 3 weeks was finals week at school. I did almost zero crochet because I was just buried. The second week I was having the plague, so I didn't do a lot of crochet either. In fact, I couldn't even hardly get out of bed. You know you're really sick if you can't even pick up yarn. That's all I'm going to say about that. And then, of course, the third week, being this week, was Christmas and we were traveling, so I did get a fair amount of crochet time in, which I'm very excited about. Before I show you what I've been working on, it is time for the first segment of the podcast, which is, what am I wearing? Of course, if you have been watching for a little while, you will know that this is my bookworm sweater, which is a pattern by Natasha Robarge. Got it out of this magazine, Love of Crochet, Fall 2017. This is the sweater. She made hers in green. I made mine in a dark gray. And this is Knit Picks Brava Sport. I should have written that down. It's 100% acrylic Knit Picks Sport yarn. It's the cheap one, the one that's like $2 a ball, because I bought 6 balls, so this sweater cost me a total of $12. All of you will know that I had some gauge problems and I hated the pattern, and generally it was not a pleasant crochet for me, but I could not be happier with the finished product. This has been through the washer and dryer, because it's 100% acrylic, 3 times now. Still looks brand new. It is not itchy at all. Maybe just like right here, I have a slight tickle, but my skin is much more sensitive than most people, so that's not surprising. It's a very soft acrylic. It doesn't bother me anywhere else, just every once in a while right here I can feel it. I love the pattern. It goes, well, you're not gonna be able to see on the camera even if I stand up. You're not gonna be able to see my waist, but it's got this rib detail which is of course front post and back post double crochets, and then it's got the same rib detail in the collar. It's actually chilly today. I was up pretty early this morning. I had to go out and do some things, which I will talk about in a little bit, and I wore this because it was freezing. To me, it's not really freezing. It was probably like 50 degrees this morning, but to me that's really cold. When we were in South Carolina last week for Christmas, it was like 30 degrees and raining. Oh, it was so cold, you guys. I couldn't even, we were inside the house and they had like the heat on and like a little space heater, and I still was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie and socks, and I was so cold because my blood is so thin. Apparently I can no longer handle any kind of cold weather at all. Well, that's what I'm wearing. I'm very excited that it's a little bit chilly here so I can get to wear it. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve. It's gonna be the same temperature, which means I'm going to wear a fabulous shawl to New Year's Eve. And we have very exciting plans for New Year's Eve, which I'll get into later. I keep saying that. Is that like the 5th time I've said we'll get into that later? Stick around, guys. I have a lot of topics to talk about. I do have one finished object. And it is, better late than never, the finished shawl for my September shawl along cal that I hosted in September and October. It is now the end of December. Yes, I realize it took me 4 months to make one shawl, whereas I had 2 people in that cal who made 8. I could not finish one. Part of that is my fault because I decided to make a lace weight shawl that required beading. The beading is what really hung me up. But it's finished, and if I never see a tiny pink seed bead ever again, I will be so happy because I hate them with every passion in my heart. This is, as I said, the leafline shawl. The designer is Aparna Rolf. It has been washed and blocked and all the ends are woven in. Let me scoot back so you can see it. Isn't it so gorgeous? Now, I know hot pink may not be your thing, but this will look pretty no matter what color. Hot pink is definitely my thing. It is my second favorite color. Blue, hot pink. I love bright colors, and this, oh, it makes me so happy. Now, you may have seen this on one of my Vlogmas videos. I was wearing it to work. Speaking of Vlogmas, that's another thing that being sick derailed, because I was gonna have a whole week leading up to Christmas of videos after school let out. Did that happen? No, because I couldn't get out of bed. So you can definitely tell I did not block this very aggressively because I didn't want it to stretch out too much. Because the more you stretch it out, the more you lose the definition of the actual leaf lines. So once it was soaked for, I soaked it for probably half an hour, and then I just laid it out, and then I gently pinned the points so that it would make actual points, because they were kind of all crumpled up on each other. So I pinned the bottom out a little bit, and that's all I did. I did not stretch this at all. I will say I'm glad I blocked this by itself in a bowl, because the water, when I took this out, was hot pink. Like, this bled a lot. So I'm actually a little bit concerned about wearing it over something white. I'm not sure if any of the color would come off, but I don't really want to take that chance. Now, I don't own a lot of white because guess who spills stuff all over herself all the time? Me. But it's just something to keep in mind. Because I have blocked shawls together before. Be careful on bright colors like pink and red and things like that, because they will bleed. Now, if this had like white yarn attached to it, I think that yarn would have come out pink. So all of the beading is done. I don't know if it gives it any extra weight, and I don't even know if you can see the beads. You can probably see them here more than on the edges. Yeah, right there, some beads. They're so small. But I think that in the real shawl, because the real shawl pattern calls for fingering weight yarn and then a certain size of seed bead. I can't remember if it's a size 6 or a size 10, but it's a larger seed bead. I could not find any pink ones in the size that I wanted, and this was a lace weight yarn. So I just picked the smaller seed bead. which of course you can't see. But it does give it doesn't really give weight, but it gives a little bit of definition to the edge of the shawl. And when it's in the light, you can kind of see it like sparkling off of the beads. So it's big enough, which I was concerned about because, as I said before, this is a one size shawl and it is a shawlette. It is not a big shawl at all. But once it was blocked, it did grow, and I used a larger hook. So it's alpaca. This is Knit Picks, 100% baby alpaca. I believe in the colorway Rose. I don't have the ball band with me because I put it away. I had a little sort of my stash and I put this away because I was finished with the shawl a week and a half ago. And I have worn this only once so far because it's pretty light. I mean, obviously it's a lace weight shawl. It is still what I would consider to be very warm because it's 100% alpaca. I cannot say enough good things about this pattern. You all know that I am pretty honest when it comes to reviewing the patterns that I have personally tried. I never had a question about what she wanted me to do in the pattern. It is so clearly written and it's very easy. It looks much more complicated than it is. The only thing you have to keep in mind is your stitch count to make sure you're in the right area, and you have to do some front post and back post double crochets. But pretty much, except on the increase points, all of this part of the shawl right here, you have a front post or a back post double crochet and 2 double crochets, and then another front post, back post double crochet. So no matter what direction you're going, you can always tell if you're doing something wrong because there's 2 stitches in between every ridge, unless you're at an increase point. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I love it. I don't think I'm gonna make it again because I really like this one. I really think I would like it in a fingering weight. However, life's too short. I don't want to make this pattern again. The back post double crochets got a little bit tedious, although I must say I am way faster at them now after doing an entire shawl. 1 row front post, which I'm really fast at, 1 row back post, not so fast. Those rows took like at least 50% longer. So that's my shawl. I have nothing but good things to say about it. If you are looking for a shawl, you should make this in a fingering weight yarn. Don't make it in lace weight. Otherwise, it may take you 4 months like it took me. But it was truly a joy to crochet. And I'm gonna take it off because I'm inside. And while it may be 50 degrees outside, it's like 70 in here. So I'm not gonna wear this the entire time I podcast. That is my only finished object. I do have some works in progress. I have some commissions on the go, and then I have 2 projects for myself as well. The first commission that I want to show you is a poncho, and I'm actually going to be making 2 of them, although I have not started on the second one yet. The pattern is Fringe Benefits by Simone Francis, and let me show you a better picture. Isn't that pretty? Now, I don't know that I would make a poncho of my own volition. I don't consider myself a poncho person. Maybe that is because I have never worn a poncho, or at least not in a very long time, since I was a kid. But someone has asked me to make them a poncho, one for her. My cousin has asked me to make her one, and then for my aunt, her mother. So I got this pattern. This is a pattern out of the Simply Crochet magazine, and it's in an issue that I don't have. I do have several of the Simply Crochet magazine issues, but this is an older one. I purchased this pattern on Ravelry. So this calls for a chunky yarn, and it calls for drops Nepal, which I can get drops in America. That's more like a UK European yarn. I can get that through some suppliers, but the shipping is kind of a lot, and it calls for a lot of yarn. So just this, it calls for 9 balls of that beige yarn. And then of course 1 ball in every color for the stripes. So that would be a very expensive poncho to make. So what I am doing is making 2. One of them will look very similar to this, and I am making it in Vanna's Choice. I'm gonna use her oatmeal. Is this oatmeal? Oh no, this isn't oatmeal. This is her linen colorway. So I'm gonna use this for the neutral, and then I am going to use, I don't know how well this is gonna work for me to show you, these colors for the stripes. Ignore these 2 balls down here. So all of these will be the stripes. So it's gonna be very similar to this, but it's gonna be a little more autumnal, a little more cooler tones than the bright colors. I have not started that one yet. However, the one that I'm making for, that's the one for my aunt. The one I'm making for my cousin, I am almost done with. And she wanted hers in purple and like deep, rich colors. So what I have so far is the neckline and then this beautiful purple color, and then I'm gonna finish it off with wine. This is literally the colorway wine. No, it's not. Why do I keep saying that? I'm convinced the colorway's wine. This is called Autumn Red. All of this yarn is Caron Simply Soft. Now, I love Caron Simply Soft because it is relatively inexpensive. It is 100% acrylic, which means you can wash and dry it in the washing machine and dryer. And when this is dried in a machine dryer, it's pretty soft when you're working with it. It is nothing like it's compared when it comes out of the dryer. It's so soft, so drapey. I've made baby blankets out of this yarn. I have made shawls out of this yarn. And it is a great option for people who are not necessarily going to hand wash their handmade items. And I never assume that someone's gonna hand wash unless I really know them, because the worst thing would be to send something like this and then it accidentally get into the washing machine or dryer and then shrink and felt. That would be horrible. So let me put it on so you can kind of see. Ooh, sorry, I just totally messed up the lighting. So it has this fluffy like cowl neck. Now you could wear it like this. If you're really cold, you can cover your nose, but really you're supposed to kind of turn this down. And this is ribbing made with front post and back post double crochets again. And then of course, this is the poncho. So let me stand up. This is how long it is so far. I'm gonna add some red to make the wine color. It's a little stiff right now, but I'm using a 5.5 millimeter hook for the body, and then use a larger hook for this because you want it to have more stretch. So it's a little bit stiff right now, but as soon as it gets washed, it's gonna be fabulous. And I'm not a poncho person, you guys, but I really like this. So who knows, maybe I'm gonna have to make one for myself. Although I must say, endless granny stitches, because that's what this is. It's basically two giant granny triangles. You just go around and around and around and around. The trial of endless granny stitches. It's like making a blanket, basically. And I don't love making blankets. I've discovered recently that I am a very particular crocheter. Now, I'm not gonna turn down a commission generally, especially if it's for someone in my family. But I don't love making amigurumi. I don't love making blankets. I don't love making things where I have a million ends to weave in. So like gradient cakes, my best friend. But I really love commissions because, number one, it gives me a little bit of yarn money. And number two, it gives me the opportunity to make something that I would not normally ever make. So I would never make a poncho by myself. But now that I've made one, I'm like, this is kind of nice. Like, I really like this poncho. I may have to make one for myself, and it may even be in purple because it's really pretty. Who knows, it might be in like hot pink or like lime green or something obnoxious because, you know, that's how I live my life. Okay, I'm gonna take it off because again, it's a little warm to be wearing over a crocheted sweater. So if you're looking for a poncho pattern, I know Claudia of the Crochet Luna podcast she's got a great poncho pattern that she talks about on her podcast. You should check it out. Hers is just like straight double crochets. This is a granny stitch, which I really like, and I think in the Caron Simply Soft, this is gonna take me about 6 balls of yarn. I bought 7 just to be safe, and I have used 4 with a little bit of leftover on this purple, because I didn't wanna go too far with the straight purple before adding the second color. So I've bought 7 balls, but I think I'm only gonna need 6, because another great thing about Caron Simply Soft is it has a lot of yards. So you get 170 grams, 315 yards. It takes a while to go through 315 yards of worsted weight yarn. Oh, and look at this. Whoop. I matched my stitch marker, because it's purple, to my purple poncho. So I'm excited. I'm hoping to have that finished in the next few days so that I can block it, weave the ends in, wash and dry it, and then start on the next one. Because I want to get it to them, but I would like to get it to them by mid-January, because it's very cold. They live in Virginia, and it's very cold up there, in my opinion, very cold. It's not like they're in the Arctic, but it might as well be to this Florida girl. So, and I'm a little behind because of how sick I was. I would have liked to have that poncho completed by now. And this brings me to my second commission. I am making another Josephina elephant pillow, which is this one. This is a paid pattern by Ira Rott. I have made one of these before. If you have been with me for a little while, you will have seen I made a mint, like a minty blue one with a pink bow. I am making a gray one for the same person who ordered the original elephant pillow for me. She wanted a gray one with a pink bow because someone is having a baby. And I'm sorry, I just went off camera, but I dropped everything on the floor. So what I'm doing, this is another thing I should be way further on. I would have really liked to be sewing this together this weekend, and nope. I have the front and the back pieces, which I then need to crochet together to make the actual body, and I have the elephant trunk. But I don't have the ears done. And that is entirely because I was sick. So because I was sick and I'm using Red Heart, just Red Heart, gray, Super Saver, which is a great yarn for amigurumi because it's so durable. And the gray yarn is much less squeaky than the other yarns, the other Super Saver yarns can be. I didn't have any though. So I had to go buy some gray yarn, but I was so sick I couldn't go. So this did not get started until Monday this week because of Christmas. I started it on Christmas. So I mean, that one I need to get out because obviously a baby is kind of on a deadline. It's gonna come out. So that's my second commission. I really, really need to get that done. But that's not all. I do have I have 2 more projects to show you. One is living in this most adorable bag that has my yarn loving crochet sisters enamel pin that Claudia from the Crochet Luna podcast sent me, which I was so excited about. And this bag was made by Clairzabeth from Crochet Cakes and her mom Caroline, and I love it so much. I am making, this went with me to South Carolina, although I didn't pull it out, and you can tell. This poor little book. It's the Shawl Project book, book 3 by Kat Golden and Joanne Scrace. I am making the one right on the cover, which is Even Cowgirls Get the Blues. That's what it's called. So the yarn that I am using, let me find the tags. So for the central portion, I am using La Jolla yarn in the colorway Pink Tourmaline. Now this is a 100% superwash merino yarn, 400 yards for 115 grams. This is how much I have left. I have not weighed this, but I'm done with this, I think, for the entire shawl. Then for the gradient portion, because this is a gradient, but I'm not actually going to do a gradient. The pattern calls for a mini skein set, but I'm just going to use one skein. I am using this yarn that I got at Gage in Texas, which was a yarn store the last time I was there. It's Plymouth Yarn Company, Happy Feet Splash. I'm thinking that's the base because the colorway is 103 lipstick. This is 90% superwash merino, 10% nylon, and you get 384 yards for 100 grams. This is one of the most favorite yarns I've ever seen in my life. I saw it and I was like, oh, I need this in my life. And it's so, like, it's so beautiful. And it's got so many colors. I just added this yarn to the project. So this is what we have got so far. I've done the central portion of the body, and it is this wide. And I have added 2 border rows. So I have 10, I believe 10 more rows to add of the border. Now this is kind of crinkly and scrunched up. When this is blocked, this is going to be much larger. And of course it's going to be much softer. I do not love, is this the episode where I tell you things I don't love? I don't love blankets, I don't love amigurumi, I don't love working in the back loop. I really don't. I find it a little bit tedious. This whole panel is worked, the texture is created by working in the back loop. Now, I briefly considered only working through both loops and just ignoring that. However, it is a really integral part of the shawl, and let me tell you why. It's not just for the texture. So the texture is a bonus, but this is so much stretchier than if I just did regular single crochets, because this is all single. It would not do this. This gets much, much bigger than regular single crochet will. So it really adds to the dimensions of the shawl. So I briefly considered not doing it, but that would really change the actual shawl itself. So I chose not to. I chose to suffer and do all of the back loops. And this is what this yarn looks like working up. I think it's blowing out a little bit with the white, but I cannot get over how gorgeous that is. And again, I love pink, and I wanted this shawl to be pink all along. The whole time I've had this book, I wanted to make this shawl and I wanted it to be pink. So I'm just so thrilled, and I hopefully will have this done by the next podcast. I don't know, because of the commissions, they're kind of taking over everything, but I do only have 10 more rows. So I think it's doable, although maybe it won't be blocked. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, what's the end of the world? It takes me another week after the commissions are done to finish it. So I love the pattern. Again, these patterns are beautiful. These are all the patterns. Oh, I'm very tangled in yarn. These are the patterns in the book. So far, I have made this one. This is the In Bud shawl. I am now making this one. Even Cowgirls Get the Blues. And then the next one I'm going to be making is this one in a gray and green. And then I'll be making, this is a Tunisian pattern, which is legit. So I'm going to be making that. This one I like, but it's got broomstick lace. I've never done broomstick lace before. Not that that scares me. Like, I'm fully confident that I could figure out how to do broomstick lace. It just seems like a lot of work. Now, Clarissa Beth from the Crochet Cakes podcast has made that shawl, and it's gorgeous. She made it as part of her Summer of Romance cow that she and Claudia hosted. Look at this, guys. On my pink shawl, I have a pink stitch marker that I made. So I'm really happy. And of course it's in a pink bag. Do you sense a theme? Do you sense a theme here? So I'm just really happy with it. I can't wait till it's done. it's cold now, so I have all the time in the world to wear these shawls. And then finally, I have a little tiny bit of progress to show you on a sock. So let's talk about this. You all know that I made one Rose City Roller sock, just one. And it's not because I got second sock syndrome. Now the sock itself was too small, and I considered ripping out the toe and making it longer, but I didn't like it. I did not like the sock. And the sock part itself, like the foot, was okay, but I just decided I didn't like the cuff, which was kind of sad because for years, I have seen that pattern and been like, I really like that. One day I'm gonna make that. Made it, hated it. Which is not the pattern's fault at all. It's just my personal preference. When I was wearing the sock, I just would like an actual cuff, I think. So I decided not to make another one. So what I did, because I still want to make a sock, is I purchased the Sockmatician's Toe Up Sock Recipe, which I'm not going to show you too much of because it is a paid for pattern. Let me see if I can find a better photo. It is a plain vanilla sock in the sense that it's all stockinette. It has a heel flap and gusset. And it's a recipe, not a pattern, in the sense that you could take anyone, figure out your base number, and then he gives you the calculations to make the sock toe up. One of the reasons I wanted to make the sock toe up is I need to try it on as I go to find out if it's going to fit, because I don't want to rip out the toe. I did have to order a pair of ChiaoGoo Magic Loop needles. These are 2.25 millimeters. And I don't remember how long this is. I don't know. Maybe 24 inches probably. Because you have to you use Judy's Magic Cast On. And then of course you have to, you can't use a 9-inch circular, and I hate DPNs. I hate them. I'll use them if I have to, but I really don't like them. One of the reasons I don't like them is because I don't see very well. I know it looks like I can see, but I have contacts in. I'm pretty blind, and I have no depth perception. Like, I am constantly running into things. And when I have DPNs, the problem is that I hold things very closely so that I can see, and I am terrified that I'm gonna stab myself right in the eye with a DPN. So I prefer not to use them. So I ordered this. I did my toe increases, and then once I got to my desired number of stitches, which I added 4 stitches, so I'm making a 68 stitch sock. I mean, I only have a size 8 foot. I would have thought a 64 stitch sock would have been good enough, but it was just a little tight on the last one, so I added 4 stitches. The yarn I am using is the Deborah Norville Serenity Sock Weight, colorway Surf, which is really pretty. I have 2 balls of this because the lovely Kalisha of the Quirky Monday Craft Cast on YouTube, she's also Nijiratani anywhere on the interwebs, sent this to me as part of the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted. She also sent me this little pen. It says, "Do not give up." And I think that that's fabulous to put on a sock bag because I constantly want to give up on making socks. So this is what I have. That's all I got. Now, the toe I did probably 3 times. I kept ripping it out. I don't know what, I was convinced I was doing something wrong. I wasn't actually doing anything wrong. It just turns out that somehow I end up knitting the sock inside out on Magic Loop. I don't know, for you knitters out there, is that a thing? When you start from the toe up, do you knit your sock inside out? Because all of the increases were inside out. And then once I switched to my 9-inch circular, it was right side again. So I kept being convinced I was doing something wrong because I'm like, okay, the yarn needs to be on the right side. And then I bring it over to and I ripped the toe out 3 times. Finally, I was like, I guess it looks okay. I'm not really doing anything wrong. I just need to make it inside out. These are my increases. They're beautiful, if I do say so myself. And I really like how this yarn is working up. You can't really tell from this being wound that it's like a striping yarn, but it is. So I'm starting to get like actual stripes on this little sock. And I've just been doing like 1 or 2 rows a day. I did the toe on Christmas, and the final toe, the one I didn't rip out. And then I've just been putting on a couple rows every day since then. It's a nice break because I have been furiously crocheting on that amigurumi elephant, which is a very tight gauge, and then doing endless double crochets, granny stitches. I haven't crocheted much recently because of school, so my hands aren't used to it. And then sitting down and crocheting for like 5 hours, my hands are like sore. So this is kind of a nice break to do a row and just put my hands in a different position where I don't have to grip a crochet hook. So it's been a nice break for my fingers to work on the sock. And I mean, it could take me a year to finish these if I only do 1 row a day. And these are obviously fingering weight yarn, and knitting is slow. Knitting is so slow, you guys. It's one of my pet peeves with knitting. And of course, I also have a llamacorn stitch marker, which was on this sock, and then I ripped it out. So it got stuck on the ball again, but it will be back on there by the end of today, I'm sure, because I want to see how much progress I get between now and the next podcast. And of course, this is in my actual sock bag, which is stuffed to the max. There's way too much stuff in here. There's like 4 balls of yarn. This is by Slipped Stitch Studios, and Claudia gave it to me of the Crochet Luna podcast, and it's just brings me so much happiness when I look at it. And of course, that Do Not Give Up pen. It's making putting a couple rows on a sock a more joyful experience than it would be, I think, normally. Oh, and I forgot to say, this is a paid for pattern, the Sockmatician's Toe Up Sock Recipe. Sockmatician has a podcast on YouTube. It's called the Sockmatician Podcast. His name is Nathan Taylor, I believe. He's from the UK. And he only knits. He does not crochet. So if you're looking for a crochet podcast, that's not the one for you. If you are a knitter, though, I highly recommend his podcast. It's it's structured in the sense that he has segments, but it's almost like you're just sitting in his living room talking to him. And he ends every podcast with a phrase that, before I even knew crochet podcasts were a thing, I watched his podcast and I watched Katie from Inside Number 23. And they kind of both, with their perspective on life and how they handle things, helped me get through 2016, which was a crazy, crazy, terrible year in my life. And at the end of every podcast, he ends by saying, "This podcast is a finished object, but remember, life is a work in progress. Just take it 1 stitch at a time." And just hearing that every time he uploaded a podcast gave me like resolve. I don't know. It's just such a nice saying. And I really appreciate his podcast because he's so positive, and I just like it. So, knitting podcast recommendation. He does amazing things with double knitting. Double knitting, for those crocheters out there, is like where you knit, you're literally knitting 2 sides. So you have 2 strands of yarn, and on one side you'll have a pattern where one color pops, and on the other side the opposite color will make the same pattern, which is crazy. So he does crazy things with that, which I find very impressive. So I purchased his toe up sock recipe. If I can ever make it through 2 toe up socks, I will probably purchase his most recent sock pattern, which is the best self-striping socks in the world, which apparently it is. I've heard nothing but good things about that pattern. So I have some self-striping sock yarn, thanks to Barb, who sent me like a lovely knit picks gift. So I have some, and I would like potentially someday to make one. Who knows? If it takes me a year to get through that one pair of socks, then next year, 2019, then I'll start a second pair. That is all that I have been working on for the last 3 weeks. I do have a happy yarn mail segment, which is my stashquisition, whether I purchase it or whether someone gifts it to me. It's kind of the segment where I go, oh my God, look at how cool this is. And as you know, it was Christmas. I got some pretty cool Christmas gifts. Number one, I have a very dear friend named Liz. Hi, Liz. Who comes over pretty much weekly on Thursday nights, and we watch trash TV together while our husbands play tennis. So they leave the house and we do trash TV, and I generally am crocheting. She went to Stash, which is my local yarn store, Stash, a place for yarn, and she doesn't knit. I've been teaching her how to crochet, but of course life is really busy, so she's not like a crazy crocheter like I am. Like, she doesn't carry yarn around everywhere. She went there and bought me for Christmas the most beautiful yarn bowl. Like, first of all, I don't have a yarn bowl. I have looked at them online so many times and then been like, no, I need to spend money on something else, like bills, because adulting, terrible. She bought me one. This is handmade by the Honeybee Clay Company, which is a local company to me in St. Petersburg, Florida. This is her tag. And this is really heavy. It's like this is not gonna go flying off the table. And it is just so beautiful. It's the perfect size for a yarn cake. And none of my yarn cakes are going to escape now because they're gonna be housed in this bowl, it's so beautiful. And it was such a thoughtful gift. So I'm thrilled to have gotten that for Christmas. Also, my sister-in-law got me these. A pair of earrings, which are yarn balls with crochet hooks through them. I don't know where she found these, but these are fabulous. I cannot wait to wear these. I haven't worn them yet because I've been saving them to show on this podcast. They're so fantastic. I'm so excited. I'm gonna wear these. And with it came my new favorite mug of all time. Too legit to knit. I've already had some tea out of this mug. This is going to be my crafty mug. Again, I have no idea where she got this, but it's fabulous. So these really made me smile. And I also got, so my in-laws got me a food processor, which is amazing. I've already used it to shred a bunch of carrots to make a carrot cake because we're having Christmas today. And it saved me so much time. But they also gave me a Visa gift card, which I'm going to use to buy a year subscription to Marvel Comics. Which, if you're not into comic books, you could just tune me out for a couple of seconds. I have said for months that when I graduated with my master's degree and when school was out, I was going to buy a monthly subscription to Marvel because you can read comic books online. And they have like over $20,000. And if you pay monthly, it's like $10 a month and you just have unlimited, you can read them all. I never really got into comic books because if you're going to purchase a comic book, they're like $4 each, average, $3 to $4, and they're short. And I read really quickly, especially like, obviously I don't read textbooks quickly, but like fiction and comics and things like that, I read them really quickly. So I could never justify the expense to spend $4 on something I'm gonna be done with in half an hour. So I never got into it, but they have this subscription, meaning I can read as many as I want. But if you pay for a whole year, it's not $10 a month, it's like $60 for a whole year access. So I'm definitely gonna do that, and I'm gonna read a bunch of comic books, which makes the nerd inside my heart so happy. Enough about that though. Back to yarn related things. I apparently, with this bookworm sweater, won a prize from the Back to School Sweater Cow, which was hosted by Tamara from Crafty Escapism and Helen, and it was hosted over in the Crochet Circle podcast Ravelry group. I won a set of stitch markers, which is crazy because I've never won anything for a cow, or generally in life. I'm not like a lucky, I don't win things. No one calls my name. So, but apparently I didn't even post my finished object in the Ravelry thread. I was like an Instagram drawing. So Helen sent me this most adorable little sheepy. I think I'm gonna add a hook to it and make it a Christmas ornament. How cute to have a little sheepy on my tree. And then she sent me a set of handmade stitch markers. So it comes in this little tin, which looks like a ticket. And I don't know how well I'm gonna be able to show these off, but there is a yarn, a ball of yarn, a butterfly, oh, 2 butterflies. Oh, I'm going way off camera. You guys are gonna have to forgive me. And then, it's like a little ball, like a little ornament, which is super cute. So that was really exciting. I've never won anything before. So thank you, Helen. And then I also got a Christmas card. So we were gone for Christmas basically, and all of this stuff arrived while I was gone. If you've watched Claudia from the Crochet Luna, her latest podcast, she talks about the Christmas cards that she designed herself. And she has a Christmas witch, and she painted it and like drew it and then sent it to a printer, which blows my mind. That is super cool. I got my very own Christmas card from her with a Christmas witch on it. And it even has her little name on the bottom, Claudia Carpenter. These are so, like, that is so pretty, first of all. And second, she made this. Like, all of that, she drew it and painted it and everything. That is seriously impressive. And she wrote the most beautiful, sweet note inside. One thing I wanted to show you on this card is look right here. Look at that little cat. It's so cute. So, I'm so happy to have one of these. I'm gonna keep it forever. And then I purchased a magazine when I was at Joann's buying the gray yarn for the elephant pillow. I saw the new Interweave Crochet magazine. There is a pattern in here that is so cool that I could not leave without it. Look at this. Look at that cable detailing on the back. And then of course it's got cables all on the front. It is called the Crimson Hooded Cardigan by Shannon Mullet Bowlesby. And it's got, I don't even know, let me see if I can find how well you can see this. But it's one of the ones that has a sleeve with a thumb hole. I could not leave without this magazine. That was too cool. And then of course it's got an amazing men's cardigan on it as well, which of course I'm not gonna make because my husband's never gonna wear it. But I am going to make that red hooded cardigan. I don't know when. I've got to get some yarn first. It also is made with, the pattern calls for Red Heart Soft Essentials, which is 100% acrylic, easily accessible yarn, which I think is fantastic because garments take so much yarn. So it's really nice to see a pattern in an actual magazine that calls for a cheap yarn. So especially one that has a hood and long sleeves and things like that. So I'm really excited about that. There's some other really cool patterns in there. You should just get it. And then finally, when I got home, I had a surprise waiting for me in the mail from Ella, who is the creator behind No Catchy Name, which is a crochet chat talk podcast on YouTube. She makes bags. She's been practicing her sewing skills, and I have always been impressed by them, and I've always told her so. She made me a bag. It's a Christmas bag. It's got snowmen and penguins and Santas, and then on the inside, this striped like candy cane fabric, and it's drawstring, so like so. It's quite roomy. I could fit a sweaters project in here. I love it so much. It's so special to me to have a bag that she made by herself. And every time I see it, I'm gonna think of you. Thank you so much, Ella. And also, she sent me a very cute card. Those were Skyrim earrings that you saw. So good eye. Inside the bag, she included 3 skeins of this Knit Picks yarn, which is Hawthorn Fingering in the colorway Graffiti Speckle. It's 80% wool, 20% polyamide, which nylon. You get 357 yards for 100 grams. It is fingering weight. This has been, I guess, sitting in her stash for quite a while, and she sent it to me to see if I could do something with it. And I am not even going to take it out of this bag because I do want to do something with it soon, like very soon. So I'm gonna leave it in the bag and put this bag in my whip pile so that I don't put it in my stash and forget about it. I want to do something with this yarn. So that was just really nice because on Wednesday, we drove home from South Carolina, and it was a pretty long drive. It rained most of the way. There was a ton of traffic. I didn't feel that great. And when I got home, that was in the mailbox, which was so nice. So I really appreciate it. You brightened my day. I love the yarn, and the bag is super special. I cannot thank you enough. Y'all should check out her podcast. It's No Catchy Name on YouTube. That's all the happy yarn mail that I have. So the final thing is a small life update before I sign off. And the reason it's gonna be a small life update is because I've got to get this edited because Christmas is today. Now, of course, I know Christmas is Monday, but my parents were not there. And so my parents and my aunt and uncle are coming over in just a few hours. They'll be here around 1 p.m. And we're having like a Christmas dinner. Now, it's not a very traditional Christmas dinner. My husband is making chicken. He is a fantastic cook, like amazing. He just doesn't cook that much. So he's making the chicken. I am making a mushroom soup, which is so good. I hate mushrooms, not because of the flavor, because of the texture. Oh, I can't do it. So a workaround, blend the mushroom soup into oblivion. When it's smooth and creamy, I don't mind it at all. So I'm making mushroom soup, some crescent rolls out of a can. I'm not making handmade crescent rolls. We're gonna have some garlic bread for this soup. I am making green beans for a vegetable, and I am making scalloped potatoes in the oven. All of the sides are vegan. And then of course the chicken, because my husband's not vegan. He's making chicken for anyone who wants it. And then yesterday, I made a carrot cake from scratch. It is a recipe out of the Super Fun Times Vegan Holiday Cookbook by Isa. It's Isa Chandra Moskowitz. I'll put it below so you can see. It is probably my second favorite cookbook. My first favorite cookbook is another one by her called Isa Does It, which I've made many recipes out of. And I wanted to answer a couple of questions because on one of my Vlogmas videos, I made a green bean casserole out of that cookbook. And some of you had questions about what kind of a diet I lead because it was a vegan cookbook. So I realize this will be a little controversial because I'm probably gonna make the vegan police mad and also meat eaters. So everyone's gonna be uncomfortable. So basically what happened was I was really sick for like 2 years. They could not figure out what was wrong with me. I had the worst migraines. I was dizzy all the time. I had horrible stomach issues to the point where sometimes I would get up and go to work and I wouldn't even know if I was gonna make it to work. And I was so lethargic, like I could barely make it through the day. I was so exhausted all the time. I just was so sick. And finally, after I went to the hospital twice. Finally, someone had the bright idea to allergy test me. It turns out that I'm allergic to dairy. Now, I can get away with a little bit of it every once in a while, but there is no way I could just drink a cup of milk. So that's not incredibly surprising because food allergies kind of run in my family, but it didn't really show up until I was 24. That's when they figured it out. So 22 maybe is when I got the allergy. I never had any problems before then. So it's really hard to find recipes without dairy, or at least it was 5 years ago. And the only recipes I could find that were really had no dairy in them were vegan recipes. And in stumbling across these recipes, I then discovered what happens to all the animals. And I was like, well, I can't really unknow that. Now can I? So I was vegan pretty strictly for 4 years. I would have every once in a while if I was out somewhere and whatever I was eating was like made with a broth or something. Like I didn't eat any meat unless like on my birthday I had something. But I wasn't like a crazy person about it, but I was pretty strict. And this past year I have not been so strict. It's kind of been on and off. And then of course this past semester I have not been following my normal diet at all because I just didn't have time. I didn't cook a meal from when school started, except maybe spaghetti I made like twice. Since September until now I haven't cooked. I haven't had time. So it was either eat fast food or eat what my husband made. Of course he's not vegan, and or maybe starve to death. And guess what? I have not starved. So I've been eating everything. And of course that's had some pretty negative consequences on my health. I have way more migraines. My stomach has been bothering me a lot. It's nowhere near as bad as it used to be. However, school is out now. All of my grading is done. My old job is done. I'm not traveling for work anymore. It's time to do something for me. So I joined a challenge at a gym, a CrossFit gym that I used to go to. And then I stopped because of grad school and we moved and my schedule changed and I was traveling and it just didn't work into my schedule. But now I'm on a regular schedule again. I get off work at 3:30 in Tampa. I can go to the 4:30 class, be home at 6, cook dinner, have a few hours before bed. And they have a weight loss. Well, for me, it's not really a weight loss challenge. It's more of a body fat reduction challenge. And it's like complete with nutrition and like you only eat these things for 6 weeks. My husband just did it and he has had fantastic results. And of course I love the people who are putting it on because I used to do CrossFit there for almost 2 years. And I don't like exercising. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like it. I don't like being sweaty. I don't like being hot. I don't like being in pain, and working out is hard. So hard. However, CrossFit I enjoyed because lifting weights makes me feel powerful. Like, there's just something about like slamming a barbell into the ground, even if it's only like 60 pounds, that makes you feel like, yes. So I'm gonna go back to doing that because I really need to get my health back under control. Obviously, I had the plague at the end of the semester. I'm still not feeling 100%. My stomach is bothering me. I'm gonna eat whatever today and tomorrow because it's New Year's Eve. And then it is not because it's January 1st. Like this isn't my New Year's resolution. It's just that I could not physically or mentally, I did not have the space to focus on this until now. So I am really excited. It's gonna be terrible. Like the first week back, I'm just not gonna be able to move my body at all because I haven't exercised at all in months. And I'm sure I'm gonna hate the food at first. But it's not like I haven't done this before. I went 4 years without eating crap, pretty much. So it'll be fine. It would be really nice if my pants would fit. Thank you, last semester of grad school, for making my pants not fit. And I have a whole closet full of clothing that I've been wearing, like 2 pairs of pants and like some shirts. So I'm sure, I know the majority of my audience is female, so I'm sure that you understand where I'm coming from. It's time. And of course, if nothing changes, if I want to see a change in my body, I have to make a change in my behavior. So that's what I'm doing. I'm telling you all because I will be giving updates on this. At the end, it's not going to interfere with like the yarny bits. But I'm really excited to get back on my diet. I'm really excited to stop eating animal products again because it's where I felt the best health-wise than I felt any other time in my life was then. So I'm really looking forward. I'm not looking forward to the first week of having like a detox period. That's going to be pretty terrible. But after that, just to not have a stomach ache constantly it's going to be great. So I'm excited. I hope that you all have the most wonderful New Year. New Year's Eve, which is tomorrow, we are going to have a meal at a pretty special restaurant, and then we're going with some friends of ours to see Jim Gaffigan, who is a comedian. He's playing in downtown Tampa, and then we'll already be there so we can see the fireworks for New Year's Eve. And he is a pretty clean comedian, and he's one of my most favorite comedians. I've watched every special he's ever had. So I'm really excited to do that. We bought the tickets for this like a year ago. So I'm really excited. I'm excited about 2018. Much more excited about 2018 than I was about 2017. It just feels right. And part of this is you guys. I'm so thrilled. I really can't put into words how blessed I feel to get to be part of this crafting community, and you guys are a part of that. Every time I open my phone or I log into my computer, I see a notification or a message or something from one of you, and you brighten my day. You bring me an unending amount of joy. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for spending some time with me, for coming back every week. I appreciate you. I think it's so fantastic. I did not think when I started this, I had no idea that there was going to be so many people who would want to share some crafty time with me. So I feel so blessed, and I'm just incredibly happy that we have had most of 2017 together, and I'm really excited for the future. So leave me a comment below. Tell me what you're working on. If you're finishing anything for the end of 2017, I mean, you only have like a day, but keep going. What are you working on? If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up, and you can also hit subscribe if you would like to be kept updated to any new videos that I upload on this channel. We should be back to our regularly scheduled 2-week podcast programming from here on out, provided I don't get another plague. Please no. So until I see you next time, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, since I didn't get to tell you last week, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye!